Good morning. This is the 34th session of this EHB lecture. We were in the later stage of module number 5. We had been doing the hybrid drivetrain design in this module. And in that, there are two parts: series hybrid electric drivetrain design and parallel hybrid electric drivetrain design. So we were into parallel hybrid electric drivetrain design. And in parallel hybrid, what we have seen so far are these topics as given here. So we have seen different control strategies in the first lecture of parallel hybrid. Then we have seen the control part of parallel hybrid. First control part was state of charge control part of PPS. Second control part was engine on off or thermostat control part. Today we are going to see to design parameters, or how to design the parameters for parallel hybrid electric drivetrain. So there are mainly three designs. The first design of engine, you will find it in page number 267 of the book of Ehsani. So this chapter starts at page number 255 of Ehsani. Initial three topics you will find in the first 12 pages. So this design of engine or parametric design of electric hybrid drivetrain, you will be find it from page number 267. So there are three designs actually. The sequence given in the book are design of engine, then design of motor, then design of transmission, and design of PPS. So design of transmission is not there in our syllabus. So design of transmission means design of gear ratios and other things. So it is not in our syllabus, but that is one of the very important parameter for parallel hybrid electric drivetrain designing. Anyways, we will be doing three design concepts only, but today we will do two design concept, that is design of engine, how to design for power, torque and other thing for engine design, and second is design of PPS. So design of PPS actually is the third topic, but we will do it today. And there will be one more lecture required to complete this module and the syllabus, that is called as how to design the motor for parallel hybrid electric drivetrain. So that separate lecture I will record and I will upload. So this is lecture number 34. So in that 35th lecture, the syllabus will be over, and after that we will be doing students presentation on various topics. So topic I will be giving, and you have to present those topics from different books. Those topics are collected. So next week onwards, we will be doing the presentation on different topics on vehicular technology. So now I'm starting with design of engine for parallel hybrid electric drivetrain. This is the same diagram. It was shown to you yesterday. So this is the introductory diagram for parallel hybrid torque coupled drivetrain. Here there is an engine and there is a peak power source, which is a battery. So these two are the main power sources. Engine is generating mechanical force, that is through transmission going to the torque coupler. This PPS is also producing some kind of energy, electrical energy, that is running this motor through the motor controller, and that is actually going to the torque coupler. So both these torques are getting coupled. Now this is a torque coupling method, that's why it is called as torque coupler. There is another coupling method we have seen, which is called as speed coupling. So in this case, the motor speed and engine speed, they get coupled, and that coupled speed is actually given to the final driving element. So in this case, we are using torque coupling because this is most widely used. So in this case, you'll be finding there are mainly three generators or one load power. So this is the first or main generator, which is called as PE, engine generator power. Second is the PPPS or PMC, that is the motor power or battery power, PPPS power. So these two are the main generators. Engine is driven by the fuel tank. So from the fuel tank, fuel comes to the engine, combustion happens, and engine generates mechanical energy. Now this PPPS is actually giving the power to the motor. So motor power is called as PM. Now this motor power and engine power, they are actually coupled here, torque coupled. And this PL is actually the load. Okay, so this power is actually required or demanded power by the driver for driving of the vehicle. Now this is the overall configuration. There are many control signals, there are many feedback signals. We have explained all these things yesterday in detail. Previously also they were explained. Now there are two brake forces. One is the mechanical brake, which is there at the top, given by PMF. There is another braking forces, which is the motor brake. So whenever the motor is going into brake kind of thing, it is called as electrical braking. And electrical braking produces a regenerative action, and during regenerative action, this PPS source actually it gets charged with the reverse path, and this motor in that case acts as a generator. So here also it is given there are mainly four main parts. One is the vehicle controller, which is the brain of the whole system. Engine controller, this controls the engine operation. Electric motor controller, so this is actually controlling the motor operation. This motor sometimes acts as a motor in case of forward driving, and in case of regenerative braking, this motor acts as a generator. So there is a mechanical brake controller. So this mechanical brake controller is actually controlling the mechanical brake, and mechanical brake and this motor brake together, they can produce the maximum brake force. Okay, so this is mechanical brake and this is electrical brake. Mechanical brake does not produce regenerative braking. Regenerative braking is produced only by electrical brake. And there is a clutch control here. Okay, and there are many sensors. So there is a sensor for SOC of PPS. So how this battery source is properly charged or not, that is actually checked continuously, and that message is given to the vehicle controller. How the engine is running, whether engine speed is proper or not, so that is actually sensed by a sensor. Message is fed to the engine controller, and from the engine controller that goes to the vehicle controller, because engine is the heart of the vehicle. If engine is running properly, that means the system will get the required power. So this is the engine speed, it is given to the vehicle controller. This vehicle controller is actually controlling the engine controller, motor controller, brake controller, and all these things. And the signal that is fed back to the engine, vehicle controller, are engine speed. Second one is the vehicle speed, it comes back. Third one is the PPS, whether this PPS is charged properly or not, because last day we have seen there was a thermostat on off action. As long as this PPS is 100% charged, engine is off in that thermostat control. Then this PPS actually gives the energy to drive the actual traction motor till the PPS energy drops to the PPS bot, or we call it 70%. This PPS will be giving supply to the torque coupler, and through that it will be giving supply to the drivetrain. So initially the engine will be off, PPS is 100% charged, that is the top line. PPS will be serving energy to the actual vehicle driving. Now doing that, PPS falls to 70%. So that actually is sensed and given to the vehicle controller. Vehicle controller tells it to the engine controller. Engine controller starts the engine again. So while the engine is on, at that time engine does two jobs. First is 80% of the energy it is giving to drive the PL, that is the vehicle, and 20% of the energy this PE gives back to the PPS power. So what is the path for that? So from engine, clutch, transmission, torque coupler. From torque coupler the energy comes back to motor. In that case, motor acts as a generator. So motor controller is having those configurations, whether this has to act as a motor or generator. Then so PE to transmission, torque coupler, then generator, then controller, and then charge comes to the PPS from PE. So PE actually does two things. One is driving the load and driving the PPS till the PPS don't go to 100%. As soon as the PPS go to 100%, again this PPS SOC comes to the vehicle controller. Vehicle controller gives engine to the engine controller, and engine controller stops the vehicle. Then PPS starts charging the PPS starts giving the all the power or P to the motor. Then again PPS discharges, again charging. So this is the PPS on off state that happens, and this part was explained yesterday in the second control part, that was thermostat on off control part. Whenever the vehicle is running in the city, continuous on off kind of action is there. At that time this motor is actually acting as a generator, and during the off or deceleration period, outside energy comes back to the peak power source or PPS as a regenerative source. Whenever the vehicle is running on the highway, at that time this engine is working fine. PPS is in that case in charging mode. So whenever the vehicle is running through the highway, at that time this PPS is not supplying any power. But whenever the vehicle is running on the highway, engine itself is supplying all the load power, as well as engine is charging the PPS source. Whenever the vehicle is on grid or on off-road kind of driving, or the vehicle is in the hill climbing kind of situation, at that time this PPS and PE together, they supply the power to the PL. This is more or less parallel hybrid electric drivetrain concept, and all these things were explained previously. Let us directly go to the component design. So this is called as parametric design of the drivetrain. The four parameters are mentioned here you can find. So parameter of a parallel drivetrain, hybrid drivetrain with torque coupling comprises the design of number one, engine power, number two, motor power, number three, gear ratio of transmission. Okay, and number four is power and energy of the PPS. So in our syllabus, this gear ratio transmission is not there. Motor power we will do in the next class. So today we are going to see what are the design components and design parameters for engine power and PPS. So first and last thing we are going to do today, and the second thing, motor power designing, we will do in the next lecture, and that will be the last topic from this syllabus. So there are the key parameters and exert considerable influence on the vehicle performance and operational efficiency. However, so every line here is important. However, as initial steps in the drivetrain design, this parameter should be estimated based on vehicle performance requirement. So whenever we are designing some parameter, before that we have to first tell us, or we have to first decide what do we want the vehicle to do. And if we know that what is expected of the vehicle, then only we can do a proper parametric design of every component of the drivetrain. So such parameters may also be refined by more accurate simulations. So toward the end of this chapter, which is the ninth chapter in the book of Ehsani, they have shown some simulation environment, or they have done some simulation, and they have shown how to design for engine power, electric motor power, gear ratio, PPS design. All those different simulation results they have shown for your reference. You can check that. It is not in our syllabus, but you can check that. And for that simulation, and whatever graph will be seeing today, for that whatever parameters they have taken is somewhat like this. The vehicle mass has been taken as 1500 kg. It's a passenger car. Rolling resistance, that is a tire rolling resistance, it is Fr is equal to 0.01. That means almost on a smooth road, the road resistance is not very bad. Air density rho a 1.205 kg per meter cube. Air density more means the air drag will be more. So if the air density is more, in that case more opposition will be offered on the vehicle. Front area, this is 2 meters square. Aerodynamic drag coefficient, which is a constant, that is CD 0.3. Radius of drive wheel R is equal to 0.2794 meter. So that delta part depends on this. Transmission efficiency from engine to the drive wheel. So there are two transmission, eta TEM it is called. So there are actually two efficiencies. One is from the engine to the drive wheel, and another is from the motor to the drive wheel. So you are finding here in this diagram, there are actually two sources. One is the engine to the drive wheel, another is the motor to the drive wheel. So there are actually two transmissions, motor to the drive wheel and engine to the drive wheel. Efficiency of both these two are given. So engine to the drive wheel, eta TE. T stands for I don't know. So this is maybe torque to the engine, or traction. Yes, eta is traction. So traction to the engine is it is given as zero point 0.9, and traction to the motor. So tractive force is the output thing. So that is happening. So from the traction to the engine, it is 0.9. That means whatever engine generation power is there, that is having efficiency of 90%, and motor to the drive wheel efficiency is 95%. So with all this, they have done all the simulations and results have been designed. We will be seeing the results only, and we'll come to know what are the factors that governs the design of the drivetrain, as well as the design of PPS, as well as motor power, as well as engine power. So in the engine design, the first thing we should understand is the engine should be able to supply sufficient power to support the vehicle operation at normal constant speed, both on a flat road and on a mild grade road. Mild grade road means the hill climbing, it is not very steep hill climbing. Okay, it is very mild hill climbing. That's 5% and all. So I told you what is meant by 30% hill climbing. So we found that tan 30 was zero point 0.6. Okay, so that was 60%, not 30%. That was 60%. We had seen that. Okay, so some value of tan is equal to zero point 0.6, and that was 60% grading. So it's a mild grade road. That means 5%, 10%, that kind of gradient is there, and on a flat road. So these are two different designs for engine on a flat road as well as on a mild road without the help of PPS. So whenever I am saying engine design, we are thinking that engine alone is driving the whole vehicle. PPS is not being used. These are very important graphs. It looks scary, but don't get scared. These are very simple graphs. These are the graphs which engine power required at constant speed on a flat road and on a road with 5% grade. So here you are finding that x-axis is speed, vehicle speed, okay, and y-axis is how much is the power generated. And the power generated is given for four different gears. For the first gear, it is like this. This is for the second gear, this is for the third gear, and this is for the fourth gear. For all these gears, you are finding that maximum power is almost 43 kilowatt. Y-axis is kilowatt, and you are finding that this peak or top, it is almost 43 kilowatt. So what do you understand from this is all the four gears, they produce the same power. Okay, 43 kilowatts. But the first gear, it produces the power for a lesser speed. So how much is the maximum speed here? Around 40 kilometer per hour. Second gear, for second gear, it is around 65 kilometer per hour. Third gear is going around 110 kilowatt per hour, and fourth gear, it is almost going up to 180 kilowatt per hour. So this is the things you have to understand. So first, there are actually six graphs. First, this 1, 2, 3, 4. These four graphs you have to understand. In an exam also, you have to explain all these four graphs. That is, this is actually giving how much is the engine power produced for four different gears, and when the vehicle is running on the flat road. So there are four gears: first, second, third, fourth. All of the gears are generating maximum power as 43 kilowatt, but first gear is generating that power within 0 to 40 kilometer per hour speed. Second gear is generating maybe up to 65 or 70 kilometer per hour. Third gear is generating up to 110, and fourth gear is generating up to 180 kilometer per hour. That means if you are increasing the gear at that time, the high power is generated at higher speed. So gear is increasing means power is high, but at speed is also very high. So fourth gear gives us a very high speed. First gear gives us very low speed. This is very evident from this characteristic. But one very important thing we have to see that all the four gears produce the same level of highest power. Now there are two more graphs. What is there? So this is the first graph, which is called as resistance power on a 5% grade road. That means this is the resistance of the 5% grade road, and as if there is a 5% inclination at that time, how much is the resistance offered by that road to the vehicle. Okay, and wherever this resistance, so this is the vehicle, this is the power required by the vehicle if we want to drive through this 5% graded road. So wherever this point is cutting, so this point is cutting around 103 uh, kilometer per hour speed you are finding. So this line, grading line, is cutting this fourth gear at around 103 kilometer per hour. Okay, so discussion will happen on this. That means if the road is 5% graded and we are using fourth gear, that time maximum we can peak the speed up to 103 kilometer per hour. So if you are using 103 kilometer per hour on the fourth gear, at that time very easily we can travel through this 5% grade road. The same thing, the same line you are finding here, the same line is cutting this third gear line at 110. You are finding here. So this is that 110 line. Here below this was 103. Okay, this is the fourth gear cutting line by the 5% grade road, and top this point is 110, which is the cutting line between 5% grade road uh, power requirement and third gear. That means if we are driving the 5% grade road, that is the inclination. and we are in the third gear. At that time we can increase the speed up to 110 kilometer per hour. That means what we are finding is at graded road, that means whenever there is inclination, if we are at lower gear, we can raise the speed more. Okay. And this is another thing, resistance power on a flat road. So if you resistance power on a flat road, you are finding that flat road, the fourth gear is very good, because flat road, in that case we can take the speed very high if we are using a fourth gear. We can use on flat road by using first gear, second gear, third gear also, but in that case we will be wasting power. We will not be doing justice to the engine of the vehicle. In that case the vehicle can do more, but actually we are not making it work more. So in the fourth gear, if you see, this is the resistance of the flat road, and fourth gear and this flat road resistance, they cut almost at 160 kilometer per hour. So this is the maximum speed you can get from the engine if the vehicle is on the flat road. So we are finding that if there is a gradability, in that case this is 103. This is the cut between the fourth gear and the graded road, and if it is flat road, it is 160 kilometer per hour. So graphically we can say that on the flat road, fourth gear speed can be higher. Okay. So we know all these concepts by our common sense, but this is graphically how to represent it. So we will see all these things now in the word form. So what they are saying, the engine should produce an average power which should be greater than average load power when the vehicle operation in a stop and go operating pattern. Definitely, whenever the engine is producing power, that should be more than what is the power demanded by the vehicle. So a vehicle is demanding 100 kilowatt power. In that case, engine has to produce 120 kilowatt per hour, kilowatt power. So if engine produces 120 kilowatt, then it can very easily supply that 100 kilowatt. So on the flat road, it is not a problem. But whenever there is a city or traffic, high traffic driving, in that case the vehicle actually goes through a stop and go operating pattern. In that case, generating high power for a longer period of time is difficult, because very frequently we are decelerating the car. But in that case also, they are saying that, so that is a test of the vehicle, test of the engine, that whether engine can do that or not. So the engine should produce an average power which should be greater than the average load power when the vehicle operates in a stop and go operating fashion. So that's why it is said that whenever we learn driving, it is said that whether you are a good driver or not, it is tested when you are in the city, or whether your vehicle is giving proper efficiency or fuel efficiency or not. It is tested when the vehicle is driven in the city, not on the highway. On the highway, not much control is required, and once you just set your speed at around 80 or 100 kilometer per hour, and you are maybe driving in the left lane safely, so you can go very long distance without any kind of hassles. Okay, so every time you won't have to change the gear, you keep your gear at one gear only, that is a third gear or fourth gear, and you can keep driving. So it is an undisturbed kind of driving when we are driving on the highway. But when we are driving in the city, at the time it's a stop and go kind of a thing. Every time you have to change the clutch, half clutch, full clutch, brake, and accelerator. So accelerator you cannot use at that time much. Okay. So in that case, we have to check whether our engine is producing average load power which is greater than the required load power or not. So very important thing, this first line, that's what I have put in green. So this is actually the test of the engine of the vehicle. Requirement of a normal highway driving at a constant speed on a flat road or on a mild graded road, power needed is expressed as this figure, or this is expressed by the equation given by this. So whatever this equation, if we are doing some kind of simulation at different gears, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, this kind of graphs we will be generating. So PE, there's the average power, engine power, sorry, not average power, there's the engine power. This is V divided by, so V is the vehicle speed, eta TE. This is the traction to the engine. That means this is the engine efficiency, or engine transmission efficiency. 1000 is coming from the equation itself. So this formula we have proved previously. M is the mass, we have seen this is around 1500 kg. G is 9.8, that factor. Fr is 0.01 here. rho A value, CD, AF, all these values. So this is the aerodynamic drag part, and MGI is the inclination. So MGI, I is equal to H by L. H is the height of the vehicle and L is the base of the vehicle. Or I is H by L. In that case, that inclination is adjusted in this I factor. So this is all the power required for the vehicle that it has to overcome, and then it will be going forward for the traction. So this much, at least this much power the engine has to produce. So this is actually all the losses are shown here. All the losses are shown here. This is the rolling resistance loss, this is the aerodynamic drag loss, and this is the inclination loss or gradability. So whatever PE is produced, it has to be actually greater than that. So more is the PE compared to this, more will be this value of V. So this V is actually directly proportional to PE. So this is in kilowatt. So here the same graph is given, shown. And you see, I will tell you, after this first chapter towards the last part, there were some small derivations and all. We were finding it difficult to understand because it was a lot of mechanical quantities. But throughout the syllabus, the same formulas are being repeated. Okay, so there is no very new formulas coming in every module. No. Okay, only this 5-6 parameters are there, and most of the parameters or equations are power equations or energy equation, average power equation, engine power equation, PPS power equation, and they are repeated in every chapter. Especially in the module number 4 and 5, the same equations are repeated heavily. So do not get scared. The syllabus looks big, lot of things have been taught, but it is in the same line if you check. So if you give time, if you start preparing from the slides and all, you'll be finding all the slides are almost saying the same thing. The figure shows the load power versus speed graph for a 1500 kg car on a flat road and on a road with 5% grade. Okay, so it is already explained to you. I have explained this graph very extensively to you. So it is seen that on a flat road, a speed of 160 kilometers. So this one, flat road 160 kilometer per hour needs a power of almost 43 kilowatt. So this point and peak point is almost same. So this is 43 kilowatt at 160 kilowatt kilometer per hour. So for analysis, the power curves of 43 kilowatt engine with a multi-gear transmission are also plotted. Multi-gear because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, all the 4 gear performances are given. Very important thing, on a 5% grade road, the vehicle can reach maximum speed of 103 by 4th gear. So now you will find this is the 103, this is the crossing point. So this is the 5% road and this is the 4th gear. So they are crossing point. So how much is the speed at this point? It is 103 kilometer per hour. So on a 5% grade road, that means there is a slope. So this graph right side, this graph is not having any slope. Okay, this graph is flat for the flat road. That's why this point is 160 kilometer per hour. Okay, so this point is 160 kilometer per hour. But this graph is actually for the 5% grade road, and for this 5% grade road, 103 kilometer per hour will be the speed of 4th gear, maximum speed at 4th gear. And the same is 110 kilometer per hour for the 3rd gear. So that point is coming here. This point is actually 100 and so this point which is shown in the pink, I will now show it. This is 110 kilometer per hour. So what is the conclusion? Conclusion is at gradability, we are finding the lower gear produces higher speed. I'll repeat, for gradability, that means whenever the vehicle is on grade or slope, in that case, the lower gear produces a higher speed. Okay, because lower gear is actually able to produce more power. Power is a wrong word, more torque, and in that case, speed is also we are finding higher. On 5% grade road, the vehicle can reach maximum speed of 103 and 110 km per hour in 4th gear and 3rd gear respectively. So all this has come from whatever simulation they have done. That simulation result is given here. This is also the same graph. So now don't get scared. This is the same graph. So this graph, if you don't consider this internal contours, so don't consider the internal contours. Only check this dark lines. Okay, so this is the same graph as shown here. So only inside this they have drawn some contours. Only inside this they have drawn some contours, and those contours are actually for the fuel consumption. So this is a electric vehicle versus speed power power graph. The same graph is there. Only thing is engine power with gear, 4 gears. So first gear, second gear, third gear, everything is same. The previous thing and this everything is same. Only this line is something different. What is this line? I'll tell you. And there are some intermediate light colored lines here. So these lines are actually contours. Okay, so this figure is same as previous with addition of the engine fuel consumption map at each other. What is this saying? Let's say fourth gear. Okay, let's say fourth gear. Fourth gear, if you are finding that there is a best response, so this is the top of the efficiency. So here you are finding a contour here. Okay, so fourth gear, you can drive the vehicle from 0 to 180 kilometer per hour. If you go here, you'll be finding that this is a fourth gear curve. So it is starting from here, and it is going up and coming down. So you can drive the fourth gear from around 30 kilometer per hour up to 180 kilometer per hour. But which is the best speed where you can get maximum efficiency in the fourth gear driving? So this is the fourth gear. So this dark line is the fourth gear. It is going up and coming here. So for the flat road, it is 160. For the graded road, it is 103 kilometer per hour. All those things are same. So in this case, you will be finding that if your vehicle speed at fourth gear is around, so from this point is around, let's say 50, 55, around 55. And this point, okay, so I'm talking about this contour inside. So this contour is the maximum efficiency contour for fourth gear. This contour is the maximum efficiency contour for third gear. This central circle is maximum efficiency for second gear, and this is for the first gear. So I'm in the fourth gear thing, and if this point is around 55 and this point is around say 80, so what I understand from this internal contours, that is the fuel consumption contour, is if in the fourth gear and if I'm driving my vehicle within 55 to 80 kilometers per hour maximum, then I will be getting maximum fuel efficiency from the vehicle. That is what these graphs indicate. So nobody drives a fourth gear in 55 kilometer per hour. Okay, that is ridiculous, because whenever I'm in fourth gear, I can run up to 180 kilometer per hour. Okay, or at least 160 kilometer per hour I should drive on the flat road. So why to drive a fourth gear vehicle with 80 kilometer per hour or maybe 85 kilometer per hour? Okay, nobody does that. But if you can do, in that case, you are going to get maximum fuel efficiency. So you have to drive the vehicle in the fourth gear, because this is the fourth gear graph and this is a fourth gear contour. And if you can drive the vehicle within this point 55 to around 80-85 kilometer per hour, within that range, let's say 70 kilometer per hour. So fourth gear with 70 kilometer per hour, in that case you will be getting maximum fuel efficiency from the vehicle. So this graph says that. Everything else is same as was explained in the previous slide. So this figure can be used to analyze the influence of transmission gears on vehicle performance, such as vehicle acceleration, gradability, fuel consumption. So the first one, this thing is telling us about the how much is the maximum acceleration possible, because this is the maximum power generated, which is around 43 kilowatt, and gradability also. So this line is for the gradability. Okay, this line is for the gradability. So acceleration can be given by this maximum torque produced. Gradability can be given by this 5% line. So you can generate a 10% line as well. Okay, and last one is fuel consumption. So fuel consumption is coming from this contours. So for fourth gear, you can explain that is between 55 to 80. So you have to drop these 2 points down. So you have to draw this 2 point down, this point and this point you have to drop down. Find out as per scale how much are the values of the speed at these 2 points, and you have to tell that if we can run the vehicle within those two speeds for the fourth gear, in that case the vehicle will be giving us best fuel efficiency. That means one filling up the tank once, we can go for highest distance. Okay, so that is what this contours are actually telling us. Now the previously discussed engine power should be evaluated so that it meets the average power requirement while driving in a stop and go pattern. In a drive cycle, the average load power of a vehicle can be calculated. So previously, whatever formula was given, that was the engine power. Now here, average load power is found out. So average load power is actually is a function of whatever thing we are calculating. Okay, so power. So this is the energy we are calculating, integrated over time and divided by, so total energy. So this is the total energy, average energy divided by time is equal to power. Okay, so energy is integrated over time. So this is the mgfrv. This is the tractive force with rolling resistance. Sorry, this thing is the tractive force. I'm sorry. And first part, this is the rolling resistance or rolling resistance loss. Second part is the dynamic loss. Okay, and this part is actually the tractive force. So this first and second part is actually goes into negative. Okay, so these two are actually subtracted from this part, or whenever the vehicle is producing power for traction, at that time this tractive force and overcoming of these two energy, all those power has to be produced by the vehicle. And over time the energy is integrated over time. That means this is combined energy divided by time is equal to power. So that is what we are finding. So the average load power of the vehicle can be calculated by this formula is also repetitively coming to our discussion. And P average varies. Now discussion on this formula. So P average varies with degree of regenerative braking. A very important discussion here in the last paragraph, because in this formula regenerative braking is not considered anywhere. Okay, but regenerative braking happens whenever I'm saying that vehicle is passing to the road in a city, or vehicle is in the stop and go kind of a thing. At that time regenerative braking is happening very frequently. So this P average varies with the degree of regenerative braking. Regenerative braking recovers all the energy consumed at braking. Very important part. And zero regenerative braking, the average power is larger than that generated with full regenerative braking. So regenerative braking is having its degree when it is partial regenerative or full regenerative braking. Whenever it is full regenerative braking, at that time engine does not have to generate huge power, because in that case through the braking we are actually recovering some of the energy and giving it back to the PPS. So at regenerative braking, that means whatever power we are giving for the braking, all the power is wasted. So no power is actually obtained back. So at zero regenerative braking, the average power is larger. That means the vehicle has to, or engine has to produce a larger power, because with partial regenerative braking it recovers some energy. Full regenerative braking, all the brake power is regenerated back, but at zero regenerative braking the average power is larger than that generated with full regenerative braking. So whenever there is no regenerative braking, at that time the engine has to take charge and it has to generate all the power for driving the vehicle. So these were all the discussion related to design of engine, and this is just a gist kind of a thing we will be finding, and then we will start with design of PPS. So in this slide, this is giving a gist of engine design parameters and discussion. So in a parallel drivetrain, as we are doing here, engine is mechanically coupled to the drive wheel, hence engine rotating speed varies with vehicle speed. Now some very touchy sensitive issues are being talked here, you have to understand it. So we have seen that there are two sources. One is the PPS, another is the engine. And engine is actually connected with the torque coupler. And torque coupler is actually connected with the drivetrain. So what they're saying is, here the engine rotating speed varies with the vehicle speed. So if engine is rotating faster, vehicle will be rotating faster. As simple as that. Okay. On the other hand, engine power with full throttle. That means when engine is running with full efficiency, full everything, maximum amount of fuel is coming to the engine and it is running with full throttle. So engine power with full throttle varies with the engine rotating speed. Engine power at full throttle is associated with the vehicle speed. So when vehicle is asking for maximum power, engine will be running with all guns blazing. So it will be running with maximum output power, or it will be running with maximum capacity. So thus the determination of engine power to meet the average power in a drive cycle is not as straightforward as the series hybrid. Because when vehicle is asking for maximum power, engine is running with maximum output power. But that maximum output power is not maximum efficiency of the engine. So these two things are different, you have to understand. Whenever the engine is producing maximum output power or vehicle is being supplied with maximum power, that point is not maximum efficiency of the engine. Efficiency is about ratio of output by input. So whenever engine is producing maximum output power, maybe it is taking too much of resources from the input and producing that maximum output power. So that is maximum output. Maximum output does not mean maximum efficiency, because input is also changing in that case. If input was constant, that means same amount of fuel is being sucked from the fuel tank and output was being produced. In that case, maximum output means maximum efficiency. Okay, but in this case, engine is fetching more fuel from the fuel tank and producing more output power, because the vehicle is asking for it. But in that case more fuel is taken, more output is produced. In that case Efficiency is not maximum. Efficiency will be maximum when maximum output power is produced with minimum amount of fuel which is taken. Okay, so that's why they are saying that maximum engine speed and maximum engine efficiency, okay, they are not same. Okay, but maximum engine speed and maximum vehicle speed, they are similar. So that is the first line is there. Engine power with full throttle varies with engine speed. Engine power at full throttle is associated with vehicle speed. And here also they are saying vehicle speed varies with engine speed varies with vehicle speed. So whenever engine speed is maximum, vehicle speed is maximum. That is correct. But engine maximum efficiency and vehicle maximum efficiency, they are same. But the energy and efficiency, they are two different things for engine. So these two paragraphs you have to understand quite clearly. And the average power that the engine produces at full throttle can be calculated by, so this is the P max average. Just in the previous slide also I had given you this kind of thing. So this is the energy at velocity v. So what P is the energy, P is the uh, power energy, uh, power of the engine for certain velocity, and this is the maximum average power that can be produced by the engine. And T is the total time in the drive cycle. PV is the engine power at full throttle, which is the function of the vehicle speed of different transmission gear ratio. So these are some of the design equations for the design parameter of the engine. So this slide is very important. In that case, only here you have to understand that maximum power from engine does not mean maximum efficiency. So this is finishing the engine design parameters. Mainly you have to explain the two graphs. One is the graph with only the torque and vehicle speed and with gradability. And in the next graph, you have to draw some contours inside the torque graph, and you have to show that what is the maximum efficiency for different kind of gradability or for different kind of gear transmission ratios. So explaining those two graphs, and there are two equations. One is the PE equation and is the P average equation. Those two equations and those two graphs, okay, that you have to explain properly while explaining the engine design parameters. I'm going for the next part, which is actually the parametric design of PPS, and this also we have seen in case of series hybrid electric drivetrain design. So one question may be asked, that is explain the series hybrid PPS and parallel hybrid PPS. So this is a 10-mark question. It is not there in your question bank, but I have framed this question later on. So series hybrid PPS and parallel hybrid PPS for 5 marks each. So this is a 10-mark question, and that discussion can come here. So series hybrid PPS we have already explained in the previous lectures. This is actually now parallel hybrid PPS. So this question, those who are attending, you write down, write about series hybrid PPS design and parallel hybrid PPS design for 5 and 5 10 marks. Okay, so PPS design mainly includes the design of power capacity and engine capacity. The power capacity design is somewhat straightforward. The terminal power of the PPS must be greater than input electric power of the electric motor. That is, so I told you last day, that is, I want suppose 100 unit of power to drive the motor. So motor requires 100 unit of power, but motor is running with 90% efficiency. So how much is the power PPS has to produce? So this PS is nothing but PPS. So this power is the battery power which is coming to the vehicle, and this is actually running the motor. So in that case, the PPS has to shell out, or it has to give 100 divided by zero point 0.9. So 100 is the unit of power required to drive the motor, and motor is running with 90% efficiency. That means it will be taking more power and it will be producing less power. So it will be 100 divided by 0 0.9, 111. So if PPS produces 111 unit of power, in that case motor will be running with 100 unit of output power. So very important thing. So PM and ETIM are the motor power rating and efficiency, and we find that PPS power is actually greater than the motor power. So if this PPS or battery whatever is there, it has to, or this is the PPS is peaking power source. If this PPS wants to drive this vehicle, in that case, the PPS has to produce 111 watt power. For that, the motor will be producing 100 watt power because motor efficiency is 90%. So this relationship you have to very clearly understand. The energy capacity design or PPS is closely associated with the electrical energy consumption in various driving patterns. Okay, so various driving patterns. What are the driving patterns? So 3 4 we have seen in the last lecture, also during series. So there were FTP 75 one driving pattern was there. It was too much of start stop kind of a thing. There was another driving pattern, some another FTP value, where we are seeing that continuously the vehicle is in the fourth gear or fifth gear, and it was not asking actually for more power from the engine, and it was driving very smoothly, taking very less power from the engine. So there are different drive patterns. Here also in the book you will find there are different drive patterns. So the energy capacity design of the PPS is closely associated with the electrical energy consumption in various driving patterns, mainly full load acceleration and typical urban drive cycles. So urban drive cycle means stop and go, and that is actually creating a lot of problem, because in that case regenerative braking will come, stopping the vehicle will come, and it is actually a little problematic. And PPS actually is getting charged, as well as it is serving the extra power, all those things there. So during the acceleration period, the energies drawn from the PPS and engine can be calculated along with the calculation of acceleration time and distance. So there is a formula. So whenever the vehicle is actually accelerating on the highway, or vehicle is on the grade, that means high slope, at that time only engine is asking the PPS to shell out some power. Whenever it is very flat road highway, at that time engine is sufficient to drive the vehicle. That is PE and PL. PE is supplying all the load to PL, and most of the time we are finding that engine is generating more power, which is actually recharging the PPS. Okay, but whenever it is on the acceleration, or whenever the vehicle is on the grade, that means it is going to the slope or off-road kind of a thing, at that time engine is asking PPS to give some power. And how much is the power given by the PPS? So this is the energy produced by the PPS. So this is PM by eta m. Eta m is the motor efficiency. So 0 to TA, so this is the traction time. And how much is the energy produced by the engine? So this is engine power, 0 to TA. So all this. So this is PM by E time. PM by E time we have seen. PM is the motor output power. So this is the motor which is connected to the PPS, and this is the motor efficiency, and this is the engine. So PE. Okay, so these two are the equations we have to remember, because this is the PPS energy, and this is the engine energy. So these are the equations, and there is all simple integration over the traction time. PM and PE are the powers. So PM and PE, PM is the motor power, P is the engine power. So PM and PE are the powers drawn from the motor and the engine respectively. Figure below. So it's a very important figure. This figure you have to explain in case of parametric design of PPS for hybrid electric drivetrain. So for series hybrid electric drivetrain also we had this kind of a figure. For parallel, this graph, whichever I'm going to show now, is very important and to be explained. So the figure below shows the energies drawn from the PPS and the engine in a period of full acceleration along with the path. So here you are finding that this is x-axis is the vehicle speed, so which can go maximum up to 140 kilometer per hour. This y-axis, in this case, it is energy consumption in kilowatt hour. You are finding that higher energy is being consumed from the PPS. Whenever there is a gradability, we are finding that higher energy is being consumed from the PPS and energy from engine. So energy from engine is less. Okay, so engine is producing less energy or base energy, but higher energy is being taken from the PPS. So graph below shows the energy is drawn from the PPS and the engine in a period of full acceleration along the path. Okay, so acceleration time. So acceleration time is increasing, that is there, but increment is very small. But in this case, too much power is being asked from the PPS. So whenever there is acceleration, this is not for normal driving graph. No, this is energy is drawn from the PPS and engine during full acceleration period. So during normal driving, this graph is not there. PPS graph is not there, because in normal driving, no energy is being supplied by the PPS. Only during acceleration period, PPS is coming into the picture, and it is actually discharging too much of power. And then whenever the vehicle comes into normal driving, this PPS is actually absent. In that case, this engine is producing all the power. Okay, so y-axis, this is the acceleration distance. This much is the distance of acceleration. So acceleration distance is also increasing, acceleration power is also increasing. And how much is the maximum acceleration power that you can find here in this graph? That is maximum acceleration power taken from the PPS source is 0.3 kilowatt hour. You're finding here, so you can find here. So this is zero point 0.3, and this point is also almost at 0.3. So graphs show the energy is drawn from the PPS and the engine in a period of full acceleration, along with the vehicle speed for a passenger car. Okay, so we are finding that acceleration time and distance is increasing. That is evident. As time is going by, more acceleration is being done to the vehicle, and for that acceleration, main power is being supplied by the PPS. So what is the maximum power PPS is supplying? It is 0.3 kilowatt hour energy is drawn from the PPS. Not power, I'm sorry, it is energy. Okay, so PPS energy is highest, 0.3 kilowatt hour is drawn from the PPS. The energy capacity of the PPS must also meet the requirement while driving in a stop and go pattern. So I'm telling you there are three cases. Very clearly you remember these three cases. First case is this grade acceleration. Sorry, first case is fine, no problem. So first case is acceleration. Acceleration means vehicle is on the highway and suddenly it wants to accelerate. Okay, this is the case in that case. Okay, so during acceleration, PPS will be serving the main bumper power, and engine will be serving the base power. That is the first case. Second case is within the city, stop and go. Okay, stop go stop go. So in that case also engine थोड़ा परेशान हो जाता है. So in that case PPS is giving all the power, and PPS is acting as a regenerative function as well. So whatever is the motor connected to the PPS, that is acting as a motor as well as generator within the city. This is an electric vehicle parallel drivetrain we are talking about. So in that case, the electric motor will be giving out the power, and then it will be regenerating the power and charging the PPS. So this is what is talking here. So the energy capacity of the PPS must also meet the requirement while driving in a stop and go pattern in the typical drive cycle within the city. So in this case, engine does not much come into picture, because in this case, not huge power is required to drive the vehicle, because vehicle is within the city and it is not running with huge acceleration or huge power. Not that start stop kind of a thing. So in that case, PPS only drives the vehicle, and in that case, regenerative braking happens that charges the PPS. So this is the second case. So first case is acceleration, second case is stop and go. In both cases, PPS is playing a very important role. Third case, which is not mentioned here, but which I explained during the engine design, that is grade. Whenever there is a gradability, whenever there is a slope to be covered, in that case also PPS is supplying a lot of power. So these are the three cases where PPS is coming into actions. Whenever you are explaining the parametric design of PPS, in that case, these three cases you have to explain. First one is huge acceleration. PPS is supplying the energy. You can find here 0.3 kilowatt hour. Second case is the vehicle is running through the city. In that time, engine becomes inactive. In that case, PPS itself is doing the stop and go kind of action, and PPS is actually driving the vehicle, as well as regenerative braking. PPS is getting charged. Third case, when the PPS is used, that is whenever the vehicle is going through a grade, that means whenever it is going through the slope. So in these three cases, PPS is used. And the fourth case is flat driving. Flat driving means driving through the highway. In that case, PPS is not used. In that case, engine is serving all the power to the load, as well as engine is charging the PPS in that time. So in the fourth case, that is flat driving on the highway. In that case also PPS is coming into the picture, but not for discharging. In that case, PPS is used for charging. Okay, but in this case, parametric design of PPS, we are talking only about PPS discharge. So the energy capacity of the PPS must also meet the requirement while driving in a stop and go pattern, a typical drive cycle. In other words, the energy in the PPS will not be fully discharged, because PPS is discharging and getting charged, because here regenerative braking is taking place. The energy changes in the PPS can be obtained by the formula PPPS charging minus PPPS discharge, because here it is stop and go kind of a thing. Whenever the vehicle is decelerating, we are pushing the brake. Brake is electrical brake, and that actually is generating some kind of PPS charging energy. So how much is the average energy whenever there is a stop and go kind of a thing? It is PPPS charging minus PPPS discharge. So this is a very important thing. This is only for the within city stop and go kind of a environment. So where PPS charge and PPS discharge are the instantaneous charging and discharging power of the PPS. With a given control strategy, the charging and discharging power of PPS can be obtained by a drivetrain simulation in a typical drive cycle. So for that, Generally, four cases are given. This is a FTP75 urban drive cycle. So this kind of graph you have to produce, not exact kind of thing you can produce, but at least see this patterns and similar kind of thing you have to produce. So first characteristic is vehicle speed, second is engine power, third one is motor power, and fourth one is energy variation in PPS. Okay, so energy variation in PPS, you are finding it is top bottom likewise. So here the PPS is getting discharged, and in that case, whenever the PPS is coming to the lower point, again engine is started and engine is actually charging the PPS. Or this can happen through the regenerative braking also. So this is point the PPS top line. This is called a PPS top line. Okay, in this case the PPS is maximum charge. Again the PPS is getting discharged. Again here PPS comes to the bottom line. So PPS is like this. And how much is this level? This level is 0.11 kilowatt hour. So this is a very important thing, energy variation in the PPS. Other things it's understandable because here you are finding vehicle speed is going up and coming down. Again it is stop go kind of a thing. Okay, so this figure shows a passenger car example where maximum energy changes in the PPS is about 0.11 kilowatt hour. Very important thing. That's why this fourth graph result they are telling at the first. Okay, which is a less than the under full load acceleration of 0.3 kilowatt hour. So where are we getting this 0.3 kilowatt hour? 0.3 kilowatt hour is taken from the previous graph, where we are finding that during acceleration, again I am repeating, uh, this vehicle can give maximum 0.3 kilowatt hour PPS. So PPS can maximum supply 0.3 kilowatt hour. But whenever we are finding that the vehicle is in a stop and go kind of a thing, so there is difference between this case and the next case. So next case is the vehicle in the city, and this case is actually vehicle in the acceleration mode. Okay, so in the acceleration mode actually tests how much is the maximum PPS this PPS source can supply. So here we are finding it is 0.3 kilowatt hour maximum. Okay, and here we are finding that within city we are requiring around 0.11 kilowatt hour. That means this is very much possible by the PPS of this vehicle to supply. So this 0.11 kilowatt hour is actually less than zero point 0.3. This is what they want to mean. So figure shows the passenger car example where maximum energy change in the PPS is about 0.11 kilowatt hour, which is less than under the full load acceleration 0.3 kilowatt hour. So 0.3 kilowatt hour tested the PPS, how much maximum power it can supply, and we founded that 0.3 is quite greater than 0.11. That means the same vehicle can be used very much well in the city for FTP75 urban drive cycle. Thus, the energy consumption in full load acceleration determines the energy capacity of the energy storage. So that we have seen from the previous graph, that is full capacity is 0.3 kilowatt hour, and urban driving requires 0.11 kilowatt hour maximum. So this is okay, we can supply the same vehicle with 0.11 kilowatt urban drive. This conclusion is only valid for max SOC control strategy for FTP75 urban driving cycle. When the other control strategies and drive cycles are used, this conclusion may be different. Okay, so it's a comparison between the previous graph and this present graph only for the PPS. So zero point 0.3 maximum required for the acceleration, it can sustain 0.11 without any kind of problem. In fact, not all the energy stored in the PPS can be fully used to generate the sufficient power for the drivetrain. So that is what it is found, that if 0.3 is the maximum that can be supplied by the PPS, here 0.11 is required. So almost 0.19 kilowatt hour is at the storage, which is not utilized in the urban driving. So if batteries are used as PPS, a low SOC. So here the previous thing, this page, all these five statements, they are only comparing that 0.3 with 0.11. Nothing else they are doing. In this case, they are talking about different other technologies. Okay, instead of battery. So far we had been talking SOC PPS as battery only. But in this case, now onward, they are talking about different technologies which can be used as a PPS. So if batteries are used as PPS, a low SOC severely limits their power output, at same time leads to low efficiency due to an increase in internal resistance. So battery internal resistance is quite high. That is a problem certain time while you are using battery as a source of PPS, peaking power source. So ultra capacitors can be used. So ultra capacitor are used as PPS. A low SOC results in low terminal voltage that affects the performance of the traction motor. So in this case, what we are finding is Ultracapacitors are having lower resistance, internal resistance. So this might be a better replacement for battery as a PPS. So flywheel also can be used. Flywheel is also called as a mechanical battery. So it's a mechanical way of saving the energy. So if a flywheel is used as a PPS, a low SOC means the low flywheel speed at which the terminal voltage of the electric machine functioning as the energy exchange port is low. So these are different technology comparisons. That is ultra capacitor, flywheel, all those things can be used as a separate PPS source. So thus only part of the energy stored in the PPS can be available for use, which can be represented by the SOC or state of energy. So what it means is this first three statements also you can understand, and you can say that not only battery but sometimes ultra capacitor with low internal resistance, flywheel with low terminal voltage, all those things also can be used as a PPS source. So these are a comparison of different technologies as PPS sources. There's a final slide for today, and there's a final slide for PPS. So ECPPS. ECPPS means whenever PPS is charging actually. So this is discharge max divided by SOC T minus SOC B. Okay. So the energy capacity of the PPS can be given by the above formula. So whichever technology you use, either battery or you use ultra capacitor or you use flywheel, whatever it is. So how to do the charging? So what is the charging energy or capacity of the PPS? So that is actually discharge max divided by SOC T minus SOC B. SOC means state of charge. E-disc max is the allowed maximum discharge energy from the PPS. So how much is this? So this is also having a limit. Beyond that, if you try to get discharge from the PPS will go damaged. Okay. So how much is the energy capacity? It is how fast or how much it has got discharged. That we have to see first, divided by SOC T minus SOC B are the top and bottom part of the PPS. Generally, we are always discussing 100% and 70%. So this SOC T minus SOC B can be 100% minus 70%. So how much energy is discharging the PPS from top to bottom? Okay, that ratio is actually giving us ECPPS. In case of a E-discharge max of 0.3 kilowatt hour, so they are giving a kind of a mathematical proof for this. So if E-discharge max is 0.3 kilowatt hour, we assume that 30% of the total energy of the PPS can be used. Then the minimum energy capacity is 1 kilowatt hour. So if this is also 0.3, below is also from 100 to 70%. So this is 0.3, 0.3. In that case, ECPPS is actually equal to 1 kilowatt hour. So this is how the engine parameters are designed. This is how the PPS is designed. So whenever the engine design is asked, I told you that those two PE and P average formula and those two graphs, that is all the gears, gradability, maximum speed, that discussion has to be done. Whenever they are asking for the PPS, at that time during PPS discussion, as given here, so this graph has to be explained. Okay, what are the parameters that is actually that is actually deciding how much power will be extracted from the PPS. So in that case, we are finding acceleration and a stop and go kind of thing. They are actually asking for more power from the PPS. Acceleration, it is maximum as 0.3 kilowatt hour, which is taken. And then you can show this FTP 75 urban driving cycles. And in this case, how this level, top and bottom level of PPS is there, and how is it compared with the maximum power which was taken from the PPS during acceleration. So acceleration test is the acid test. This is deciding how much maximum can be taken from the PPS source. And then we will check in the urban driving cycle whether this range, top and bottom range, is going beyond this 0.3 or not. It should not go. In that case, we can use the same vehicle, same PPS for urban driving cycle also. And then there is coming a comparison of different technologies for PPS. And finally, what is the energy capacity of the PPS? So all these formulas kind of look same, but if you read from the book or read from the this PPT, you'll understand the things in detail. So you have to give some more time to understand it, but fundamentals are very easy. They are not as difficult as electronics related fundamentals. So vehicle things are comparatively much easy and much more interesting. So with this, I am concluding today's lecture. So only one topic is remaining from this module 5 and from this whole syllabus, that is design of a motor for parallel hybrid electric drivetrain. So that lecture will be taken and this module 5 or syllabus will be concluded. That's all from my side now. Thank you.